Patriotic Dialogue.
It's midday in Dakar and Banjul, 1 p.m. in Abuja. Good afternoon and welcome to Newslink, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar and around the world at wadr.org. First, our top stories. Ghana's Supreme Court strikes down delegate system in landmark political ruling.
This is going to bring a cost element in terms of how our elections are being conducted and how the political parties are going to carry themselves.
Senegal adopts $11.5 billion health reform plan to expand universal health care.
The strategy is built around 5 major priorities. First, modernizing governance with a focus on performance and full digitalization.
And in our analysis, we examine rising human trafficking threat across West Africa on World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. Please stay tuned for the details of these stories and more.
On the news, this is Veronique Joy.
Thank you for joining our broadcast. We begin in Mali, and Amnesty International is calling for a war crimes investigation into the killing of at least 19 Malian soldiers. It says were captured during an ambush in the Gao region of northern Mali. The rights group, in a statement on Wednesday, says the incident occurred earlier this month. According to the organizations, its analysis of 12 videos circulating on social media shows the soldiers surrendering with their hands behind their heads before being beaten and later executed. Sankule Janko completes the story.
According to Amnesty International, the footage shows the soldiers had laid down their arms and were no longer taking part in the fighting, making them protected under international humanitarian law. The organization says the evidence suggests they were subjected to ill treatment before being executed in what could constitute war crimes. Amnesty also says several of the videos saw vehicles displaying the white flag commonly associated with the Al-Qaeda-linked group for the support of Islam and Muslims, or JNIM. The July 18 ambush took place in Tabrichat in Mali's Gao region. Both the Azawad Liberation Front and JNIM separately claimed responsibility for the attack, saying they inflicted heavy casualties on Malian troops and their allied Russian Africa Corps fighters. Amnesty, however, stopped short of attributing the alleged executions to either group. The incident underscores the mounting security challenges facing Mali's transitional authorities, who continue to battle armed groups across northern and central regions of Gao, Timbuktu, Kidal, and Mopti. Despite years of military support from Russian forces now operating as the Africa Corps, the government has struggled to stem escalating attacks, including coordinated assaults earlier this year that left several soldiers dead.
That was Sankule Janko with that report. Still in Mali, the country has unveiled a new presidential aircraft as it seeks to restore its official air transport capacity nearly 2 years after its previous plane was damaged in a militant attack on Bamako's main military airport. The acquisition, worth more than 23 million euros, comes as Mali's military-led authorities continue efforts to project state capacity amid ongoing security challenges and economic pressures. Imo Edet completes the story.
Malian authorities have introduced a new Boeing 737 presidential command aircraft to support official travel by the country's top leaders and government delegations. The aircraft replaces the previous state plane, which was rendered unusable after an attack on Bamako's military airport in September 2024, claimed by the Group for the Support of Islam and Muslims, an Al-Qaeda-linked armed group. The attack caused significant damage, including the destruction of one of the aircraft's engines. Officials say the new aircraft has undergone major upgrades, including modern navigation systems, a redesigned cabin and facilities for long-distance official missions. It has a range of about 11,500 kilometers, allowing it to operate international flights without refueling. The purchase, valued at 15.6 billion CFA francs, has already drawn attention over public spending priorities. Mali's finance minister said the state had recovered 6 billion CFA francs in insurance compensation for the damaged aircraft, while authorities are seeking to sell remaining parts and equipment to reduce the overall cost. The new presidential aircraft comes at a time when Mali continues to face security threats with armed groups active in several parts of the country, while authorities seek to strengthen state institutions and maintain diplomatic engagement abroad.
That was Imo Edet giving the details of that report. In Guinea, access to social media platforms has been restricted for several days, disrupting online communication and business activities across the country. The latest restrictions are not the first of their kind and are already affecting several sectors that depend on digital platforms. The Association of Guinean Bloggers has condemned the move, calling for the immediate restoration of access to all social media platforms. Abdullahi Hassan gives us the details.
In Guinea, access to social media has been disrupted for the past 4 days following new restrictions on several platforms. The Association of Guinean Bloggers says its investigations point to the targeted blocking of multiple social media platforms. The group's president, Baro Condé, has condemned the move.
Connectivity tests carried out on Tuesday confirmed that access to certain social media platforms has been deliberately restricted. Nothing justifies these restrictions. If there is a justification, it should be communicated transparently. The authorities should publicly explain why they have decided to restrict or limit access to social media platforms, because access to these platforms is a fundamental right. Restricting that access therefore amounts to an infringement on our fundamental rights and freedoms.
Responding to criticism, government spokesperson Usman Gao Jallo said authorities are introducing new regulations to better oversee young people's use of social media in the country.
I am not aware of any exceptional measure making such restrictions mandatory. However, what is important is that our internet space needs regulation. We are all witnessing the excesses and abuses taking place on social media, and there is a need to bring greater responsibility and order to these platforms. Whenever we say this, people assume we are opposed to freedom, but that is not the case. We are simply recognizing that certain harmful practices on social media require an appropriate level of regulation. That is essential.
Meanwhile, civil society organizations have petitioned Prime Minister Amadou Riba, calling for the restrictions to be lifted. They argue the measures are disrupting online activities and represent another violation of Guineans' fundamental rights.
A report by our correspondent Chetno Alpha Ibrahim Albalde, presented by Abdullahi Hassan.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
In Ghana, the Supreme Court has delivered a landmark decision that could reshape the country's political landscape. The court yesterday, Wednesday, declared the delegate system used by political parties to elect their leaders and parliamentary candidates unconstitutional. The decision requires parties to allow all registered members in good standing to vote in internal elections, a move expected to strengthen grassroots participation but also present significant logistical and financial challenges. Our correspondent Nadide Tete gives us the details.
The 5-2 majority decision requires political parties to open their internal elections to all registered members in good standing, ending a long-standing practice that has shaped Ghana's political landscape for decades. Both the governing National Democratic Congress, NDC, and the opposition New Patriotic Party, NPP, have welcomed the decision in principle. While the NDC says it is ready to comply, both parties acknowledge that implementing the new system will require substantial financial and logistical resources. And that's why the NPP says government must assist political parties to that effect. Haruna Mohammed is a Deputy General Secretary of the NPP.
This is going to bring a cost element in terms of how our elections are being conducted and then how the political parties are going to carry themselves. This calls for the government to stretch its arms to be able to assist political parties.
But the NDC's Deputy Director of IT and Elections, Rashid Tanko Computer, disagrees.
Why should government use state resources to run political party? You have decided to form your political party to do your own business, and You want us to use state resources to fund your activities. Why do you have party members? Let them pay their dues. They have dues.
Critics of the delegate system have long argued that concentrating voting power in the hands of a few made the process susceptible to vote buying and undue influence. The decision is widely seen as a major boost for internal party democracy, giving ordinary members a greater say in choosing party executives and parliamentary candidates. However, the judgment is also expected to increase the cost of complexity of organizing party primaries, as political parties will now have to conduct nationwide elections involving their full membership. For WADR, Nadidi Tete, Accra.
More on political development, but this time in the Gambia, where the ruling National People's Party has welcomed the Gambia's Democratic Congress into its alliance. The agreement announced at the ceremony in Banjul marks one of the biggest political alignments in the lead-up to the December polls. The union is expected to influence the political arena as parties intensify campaign preparations. Rosamara Kate reports.
The Gambia Democratic Congress, GDC, has officially joined the reigning National People's Party-led alliance, reinforcing President Adama Barrow's political base just months before the Gambians head to the polls for the presidential election. Speaking at Wednesday's signing ceremony, President Barrow described the alliance as a partnership founded on peace, unity, stability, and national development.
I'm telling Honorable Mama Kande that I welcome you today at the State House here. I welcome you with all my partners within the alliance. We welcome you with both hands. The way I am with NPP supporters and parties that have merged with us, those who were with us for 10 years, those who've come today, you are all equal to me. Then I believe that with our friendship, Allah will grant it long life.
The president said the coalition remains open to all political parties and individuals willing to put a national interest above partisan politics, insisting that meaningful development can only be achieved through collaboration. For the GDC leadership, the decision follows months of internal consultations and reflects the party's commitment to contributing to national development through dialogue and cooperation.
I've come to work, and by the will of God, we shall work. I'm telling both GDC and NPP, as from today, let's put on our shoes and tie our waists. Let's not just believe we've won. I have no doubt we've won, but it requires work.
While the ruling NPP continues to broaden its coalition, attempts by opposition parties to forge a united front have been undermined by disagreements over leadership and the structure of a proposed coalition. For WADR, Rosamara Cates, Banjul.
Senegal has adopted a new 10-year strategy to overhaul its health sector, with authorities pledging major reforms to improve healthcare delivery, strengthen disease prevention, and reduce the country's dependence on imported medicines. The plan, estimated at more than 6.6 trillion CFA, approximately $11.5 billion US, is being presented as a roadmap toward universal health coverage and a more resilient healthcare system, especially in rural Senegal. Augustine Coley reports.
While Senegal has made significant progress in healthcare over the past decade, authorities acknowledge that major disparities persist. Health services remain heavily concentrated along the Dakar, Thiès, Jobel corridor, leaving many rural and remote communities with limited access to specialized care. Health Minister Dr. Ibrahima C. says the new strategy is designed to address these structural challenges through 5 key priorities.
The strategy is built around 5 major priorities. First, modernizing governance with a focus on performance and full digitalization. Second, improving health financing. Third, prioritizing disease prevention and health promotion. Fourth, expanding access to quality health care tailored to the needs of our population. And finally, achieving greater health sovereignty. The estimated cost of implementing this 10-year action plan is 6.6 trillion CFA francs.
The government estimates that implementing the strategy will require 6.661 trillion CFA francs over the next 10 years, making it one of Senegal's most ambitious public sector reform programs. The World Health Organization has welcomed the initiative. WHO resident representative in Senegal, Dr. Yao Ndat Konda Makel, said This strategy reflects international priorities for strengthening health systems.
Ces orientations sont en parfaite cohérence.
These priorities are fully aligned with international efforts to strengthen health systems and reflect Senegal's commitments at both the regional and global levels. Through this strategy, the country is entering a new phase in the development of its healthcare system.
Une nouvelle étape s'ouvre.
Officials hope the reforms will not only improve healthcare delivery across the country, but also reduce regional inequalities and move Senegal closer to achieving universal health coverage.
That was Augustine Bilkoli with that report. You are listening to Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM in Dakar and around the world at wadr.org. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Ghana Supreme Court strikes down delegate system in landmark political ruling. Senegal adopts $11.5 billion health reform plan to expand universal healthcare. Still ahead in the news, WADR examines rising human trafficking threat across West Africa on World Day Against Trafficking in Persons. We also have the press review, guest interview, and sports news. Please stay with us.
From the heart of Nigerian politics, this is Yeche Nisasitu in Abuja, and you are listening to WADR 94.9 FM Dakar.
Thank you for staying with us. Now, across West Africa, thousands of people are trafficked every year for forced labor, sexual exploitation, domestic servitude, forced begging, and child exploitation. The victims are often recruited through false promises of jobs, education, or a better life before being exploited in destination countries. According to the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, UNODC, human trafficking remains one of the region's most persistent human rights and security challenges, with women and children accounting for the overwhelming majority of victims. Usman Umar has this report on the commemoration of the World Day for Trafficking in Persons, themed Trapped Behind the Scam.
According to the UNODC, children make up a significant share of trafficking victims identified in West Africa, particularly in the agricultural, mining, and fishing sectors. Girls are disproportionately trafficked for sexual exploitation and domestic work, while boys are commonly forced into labor in farms, mines, and informal industries. Countries including Nigeria, Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, Burkina Faso, Benin, and Senegal continue to serve as countries of origin, transit, and destination for trafficking networks. Conflict, poverty, unemployment, irregular migration, and weak border controls have further increased people's vulnerability to traffickers. In commemoration of the 2026 occasion, UNODC Executive Director Monica Juma is calling for decisive action to end the scam industry and free those trapped within it.
Once trapped, they are subjected to threats, abuse, and in many cases extreme violence, while being forced to scam millions of innocent people worldwide. These activities generate billions of dollars in illicit profits. And with the use of modern technology and artificial intelligence, criminal networks now operate with ease across borders and throughout the digital realm. What began in Southeast Asia has spread to Africa, Europe, Latin America, and beyond, creating a truly global security threat. That is why we need a united and coordinated international response.
As governments mark the World Day Against Trafficking in Persons, rights advocates are calling for stronger law enforcement, improved protection for survivors, and greater investment in economic opportunities to address the root causes driving vulnerable people into the hands of traffickers.
That was Usman Umar with that report.
This is the Newspaper Review. Stay abreast and find out what the top stories are in your country.
This is the Newspaper Review.
The Newspaper Review.
For the Newspaper Review this afternoon, Nadide Tete is on standby in Accra.
Greetings. Welcome to the newspaper review segment. We start off with the Daily Graphic newspaper front page. Internal party elections. Supreme Court bans delegate voting. Also here, Ghana and Gabon deepen ties. President accepts reciprocal visit invitation. Also here, OSP has delegated authority to prosecute. That's according to the Supreme Court. The Chronicle newspaper, Ashanti region backs Eugene Entry as next NPP General Secretary. Well, the opposition NPP is preparing towards their election of their national executives, and this is one of the people vying for the position of General Secretary. That's it for the Chronicle newspaper. The Daily Guide, Ghana must export mining innovation, not just minerals. Alhaji Ali Ibrahim. This headline is pretty interesting. You're still reporting the news from the Supreme Court in relation to all party members in good standing being allowed to participate in internal elections, but it chooses to report it this way. It says a deep freezer, TV, cash, and boiled eggs party delegate system banned. Also here, OSP has power to prosecute. Supreme Court rules. The Spider newspaper, fix the roads or forget the trade. Economist Professor Bokpin blunt AFCFTA warning. The Exclusive newspaper, police seize illegal sirens and strobe lights on 789 vehicles. The Ghanaian Times newspaper front page, Supreme Court upholds OSP prosecutorial powers, and Ghana and Gabon decry xenophobia and commit to African integration. That's it for the newspaper review segment. It's back to you in the studio.
Many thanks to Nadia Tete for the newspaper review.
Politics,
Analyses on major news.
social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
For our guest interview this afternoon, as Africa becomes increasingly central to the global demand for critical minerals, questions around governance, transparency, and conflict prevention are gaining greater attention. The Open Society Foundations recently convened a regional high-level conference in Accra, which ended yesterday, to discuss how the continent can manage its mineral wealth responsibly and ensure that communities benefit from these resources. To discuss the key outcomes of the conference, WDR spoke with Temfumbu, Program Officer at the Open Society Foundations.
The first key message is that our resources of the subsoil are not riches in themselves. It is what we do with them that transforms them into a resource for prosperity. And so far, Africa has not done a good job at that. And one of the consensus from this conference is that that's a situation that needs to stop. We need to move beyond extraction and transform the natural resources into prosperity.
One of the fundamental points of this conference was to highlight the issue of governance. Have we been able to make headway with regard to governance?
It's one of the key themes that run through the whole conference, that if we don't get governance right on this continent, then our resources will remain a curse. I gave the example of Cameroon, where the lack of a transparent governance system for gold exports has led the country to lose over $3 billion in a period of 4 years. So one of the things that the conference really emphasized, it's to remind all of us that governance, transparency, and accountability is what's going to help us better manage those natural resources for shared prosperity.
It's interesting you make the point about the conference emphasizing the issue of governance. Did you secure any commitments at all?
In the nature of conferences, we are making policy proposals. We are not implementers. We are not the policy actors who are supposed to put this in effect. But what we are trying to do here is to build a collective consciousness about the need for us to reinforce governance around the management of mineral resources. Obviously, it's left to the policymakers now, it's left to the individual countries. I don't think there's any country that accepts its situation of poverty and underdevelopment. All countries are trying to develop. We are saying good governance is a pathway towards that development, especially when it comes to the issue of minerals. I think one of the things that we have perennially missed on this continent is the exercise of our agency. We talk about lack of capacity a lot in terms of transforming our mineral wealth into shared prosperity. But I believe it's because we've not been imaginative enough. We've not exercised our agency enough. And I'm not naive to the geopolitical context. I am not naive to the power imbalances and the exploitative international economic systems that have been put in place. But we've also seen that on this same continent, the countries that have effectively exercised their agency are making a lot out of their natural wealth. The defining factor, again, I come back to the issue of governance, the issue of corruption. And I keep coming back to the case of Cameroon. If a country can leak 44 tons of gold unaccounted in 4 years, what's left? It's a matter of transparency and accountability. It's a matter of foresight. It's a matter of exercising your agency as a state for shared prosperity. I don't think we are doing that enough. I don't think we're imaginative enough in that regard. The geopolitical context will always be there. But within that, there are many countries that manage to maneuver through it.
That was Temfumbu, Programs Officer at the Open Society Foundation's OSF. In sports, Ghana have opened their 2026 Women Africa Cup of Nations campaign with a convincing 2-0 win over Cape Verde in Group D at the Moulay Rashid Stadium in Casablanca. The Black Queens took an early lead through Doris Bodua in the 6th minute after being set up by Portia Boaki. An own goal by Cape Verde defender Elia Verreira 9 minutes into the second half sealed the victory. The win gives Ghana their first 3 points of the tournament and an ideal start to their campaign. They will next face Cameroon on August 2nd, while Cape Verde will look to bounce back in their second march. Cameroon have kicked off the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations campaign with a hard-fought 2-1 victory over Mali in Group D at the Fest Sports Complex. The indomitable Lionesses took an early lead through Marianga in the 14th minute, but Mali responded when Aissata Traore converted a penalty on the half-hour mark. Cameroon restored their advantage in the second half, with Monique Ngok calmly converting a penalty in the 73rd minute to seal all 3 points and give the Lionesses a winning start to the tournament. Now away from the WAFCON, the Confederation of African Football CAF says it has received a proposal from FIFA on the planned FIFA Forward Enterprise Initiative. CAF President Dr. Patrice Motsepe will convene an executive committee meeting next week to assess and evaluate the proposal as part of the ongoing consultation process. The Continental Football Body has also encouraged its member associations to review the initiative and participate in discussions aimed at increasing resources for the development and growth of football in Africa and beyond. And with that, we have come to the end of this edition of Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Ismaila Kamara and Maudeju for their technical assistance. Let's keep the conversation coming on all our social media platforms: X, TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram at WADR English. I am Veronique Jai. Good afternoon.
We thank you for listening to Newslink in Nigeria on Love FM Abuja and Darling FM Owerri. In the Gambia on Hot FM Banjul, Hilltop FM and Veritas Radio in Serekunda. Thank you for listening on Alternative Youth Radio Lofa County, Liberia, Radio Kegaman in Nimba County, and DCN Radio Riverses County. A big thank you to Radio Baft FM in Sierra Leone for listening, and in Ghana we thank Radio Pad in Damango and Royals FM in Wenchi. Thank you all for listening to News.